Achtung, Achtung, Christmas is a-coming, dear listeners. And to quote Richard Chaplow, 26 appearances, 9 subs, 1 goal. As he once said, you cannot beat a good board game. And we've got a good board game for you here. Achtung has teamed up with a tremendous football trivial pursuit style game called Pundit. You can follow Pundit at Pundit Games on Twitter. And it's a really nice little game, actually. It's a board game. It consists of football trivia questions, easy and hard. Some of the hard ones are very, very hard. And you move along a football pitch to score goals against your opponent. It will suit the football head in your life, dear listeners. Great way to pass a Christmas afternoon. You can get a 10% discount if you visit punditgames.co.uk. That's PUNDIT GAMES, punditgames.co.uk. Get a 10% discount at checkout with the code LIONS in capital letters. Lions, capital letters. And every sale will benefit the Lions Food Hub. What a better way to pass your Christmas than to enjoy a good football trivia game and to know you're doing good at the same time. So get on it. punditgames.co.uk.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Achtung World Cup, number 2 in this little World Cup series. Joining me to chew the cud, chew the fat, kick the traces on the World Cup are my two compatriots. Mr. Harry Warren wearing his 2002 Millwall shirt. Nice choice, H.
Today, I feel like Steve Claridge. I feel like a migrant worker. We live in strange times.
We certainly do that. Also joining us, the man himself, Mr. Ryan Loftus. Are you enjoying the World Cup, Ryan?
Yes, I absolutely love it, Nick.
Love it. You shouldn't be enjoying yourself. You should be in misery. Shame on you. And just coming onto the stream now from his abode of work, not abode of work, place of work, Mr. Michael Avery. How you doing, Michael?
Good afternoon. Sorry for joining so late. I do apologise.
That's all right.
What have I missed? How many F words from Harry?
None
so far, actually.
None. A grand total of 1 minute 12 into the pod, and I haven't done any. However, I have referenced Gianni Infantino's weird speech, so we'll continue from there.
Oh yeah.
Listeners need to know I have a private rule of thumb that is never to have more than 3 voices on the show because it gets too hard and too confusing. So I've broken that rule immediately with 4 of us. So I'm going to sit back like Mr. Speaker in the Prime Minister's question time and allow the debate to continue. I thought we'd just kick off with I've done very little prep for the show, listeners, but I thought it'd be nice just to go around the panel and ask if everyone's enjoying the World Cup, because I am, and all joking aside, chaps, this is a strange World Cup. It's probably the most examined World Cup that I think I've ever I'm aware of, and I've lived for a few of them now. Courtesy of social media, courtesy of the 24 news cycle, but this is certainly the most examined in the sense of the rights and wrongs of staging it. But now the football started, I'm generally enjoying myself. 4 games a day, some good games as well so far. But are we enjoying ourselves? Harry, are you enjoying the World Cup, mate? Do you like the World Cup?
I think it's been an okay start. I think there's been, from an England point of view, I think, a couple of people when they go, "I think it's a shame that Benzema's out for France," where I'm going, fucking get in, the cunt's fucking injured. But from a purely selfish point of view. But yeah, I think it's been okay. It's better than. There's been a couple of dud World Cups recently. I seem to remember the one in South Africa was really slow, and you had the endless fucking vuvuzelas during every game that meant if that's atmosphere, that's the England band type of atmosphere that nobody really wants. Where this, the best game I think so far has been the Saudi game. I think, the geopolitical stuff aside, to see them beat one of the favourites, sort of near enough at home. They're bidding for the 2030 World Cup as it is anyway. But it's been all right. It needs the group stage is the group stage. There's not really there's been some good football and stuff, but it gets interesting when you know sort of the path to the tournament at the end of the group stage. But 4 games a day till Friday is not a bad way if you're working from home, I'm sure.
No, is it testing your ability to consume football, Ryan? I mean, I've literally just finished watching Croatia and Morocco. It actually wasn't a bad game, in fairness, but 0-0 draw. There's been one or two like that recently, but the standard of football for me been pretty robust. I've enjoyed it so far.
I love it. I think there's a thing that happens with World Cups that every World Cup, and this isn't directed at Harry, but it is directed at pretty much most of the comments I see. Every World Cup, as it's happening, everyone always goes on about how bad it is or how boring it is. Like,
Yeah,
football is consumed like in bulk, especially in England where, you've got the 3:00 ban. So the majority of games in the country probably aren't that exciting. That all happen at the same time, and then you get the couple that are exciting on match of the day. Match of the day, you might as well watch the first 2 games, and then I think the most common result in football is 1-0, and
Yeah.
0-0s and 1-0s are pretty close seconds. So with the World Cup, you get this weird thing where every single game is given its own spotlight, and people go, "Oh, isn't this boring?" It was a bit like during lockdown when they were all on TV, because you were then really focusing on one game. But what's exciting is the teams that are playing against each other, the fact that it's a World Cup, and obviously you get the going into the World Cup, all of the chat around it. And I think, if you're a relatively intelligent person, I feel like you can put that to one side to it. You know what your moral stance on something is, but then you also know that you can enjoy the football like that. The fact that a football tournament is on shouldn't really change your opinions on whatever they are that you hold on things. I think it's not wrong to still enjoy it. I don't begrudge anyone who's like gone out to Qatar to watch it. For example,
Yeah.
like Wales fans, it's their first World Cup in 58 years, is it? And, it's not your fault where it is, how it's been managed, what's happened with it. At the end of the day, football is great. Like, that's why we do this pod. That's why we watch so much. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm working from home throughout the tournament. So I think I was looking yesterday, there is 4 games a day until, is it the 2nd of December?
This is through the group stages. That's right.
And then there are 2 games a day until the 6th. Then we have 2 days break. So and then it's 2 games a day again. So yeah, I've missed 25 minutes of one of the games so far, and a long may that streak continue. To be honest,
I must admit, I was tested yesterday. There was a game yesterday. It was a 0-0. Mexico-Poland, Michael.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if anyone here watched that one, but that felt like a bit of a stretch after the drama, which I largely missed, of Argentina being beaten by Saudi Arabia. Michael, Ryan's made a good point there, actually, because, pretty much most World Cups, there are very few World Cups when you look at the history of the tournament that have been played in kind of like a totally clean utopian society. They're normally played somewhere where you can draw a few question marks. I'm old enough to remember the Mexico World Cup being on. I didn't follow an awful lot of it because I was only 9 years old. But Mexico as a society then was pretty authoritarian. And just to touch on another point that Ryan's made, there were some boring games in Mexico, although that's seen now as perhaps the most iconic World Cup of the lot with Pele and the Brazilian side. It wasn't all flair. There's always a mix, and you tend to remember the big moments and put the slightly more tedious stuff to one side. But you enjoying it, Mike? Are you enjoying the Qatar 2022 thing?
One thing I'm enjoying, I've got to say, is the attendances that they report after games.
550,000 people in that stadium.
Yeah, 550,000 people in a stadium.
There's people on the roof clinging to the floodlight pylons because there's more people in the ground than the capacity should hold. But I don't know what's going on there.
But you know what, Ryan, you were saying about how World Cups start, sort of some of them quite boring and it's exciting, and then they get more exciting as they go along. I genuinely think, to a point, this has started how most other World Cups start, really, in the sense that you've had a few noses blooded early on. Argentina losing to Saudi Arabia, I think they've gone in one of the favourites, if not the favourite. Reminds me of when Spain lost their opening game against Switzerland, I think, the year they won it.
Cameroon beat Argentina. When was that? Was that 1990? I think. But there's been one or two upsets in opening games. For a lot of the big nations over the years over the tournament. So that was quite a turn up, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now you've got some teams who I think have probably seen results like the Argentina-Saudi Arabia game, because I think wasn't it the percentage chance of Saudi Arabia winning was one of the lowest ever, something like 8% or
4%.
something. So now you've got some teams who half fancy it, thinking, well, I suppose a draw and just getting a couple of points on the board might not be the worst idea. I mean, the one good thing with the World Cup is you win a game, and you're arguably pretty much through already, or you're looking at going through. I mean, England now, the way our result went and then the other results, I think all we need is like a point and other things to go our way, and we at least go through second. But all these teams know they've got to get points on the board early. So if it's that 1 point and then it goes to the head-to-head, etc., goal difference, it's not been a bad start. But yeah, going back to what you said, Nick, it's been okay. Off the field, it's the tournament that keeps giving, because something new turns up every single day.
Yeah.
But on the field, I think you could probably say it's better than most people thought it would be.
I mean, ripping start for England, H 6-2. Did you watch it? Did you get a chance to see it, or were you working?
I watched it. I watched every minute of it. Look, it's Iran. It's the right formation against Iran. You can only beat what's in front of you. We looked good. Their keeper was concussed and should never have continued on the pitch, and football is still a fucking dystopian shit show when it comes to head injuries, and that's worrying. But then when the tournament, have we got lawyers ready? When the tournament is run by people that sell a tournament to a horrible regime that is oppressive to most of its people that live there, what are you going to expect? I mean, Michael's just touched on it. There's every day. I mean, as pitiful as the armband was, I think the England FA have got to take a lot of shit. Whether or not you agree with taking the knee or not taking the knee, that reared its ugly head again, because you took the knee despite you didn't wear the armband. So you either do both or you do none, as far as I'm concerned. And that whether or not you want Harry Kane to get booked in the first game, subsequently it looks like he's injured. Pray he isn't, but it looks like he's injured, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But for me, that was the statement. I don't care what any other nation's doing. If you want to lead from the front and you want to push anti-discrimination against all peoples, then you do both things. You don't just take the knee. And
Sorry, Harry. Yeah. Very quickly, just to touch on while you're on this, and then I'll jump straight back out. It's just come up on the BBC website looking now that the German Football Federation is investigating whether it was legal for FIFA to threaten players with sanctions for wearing it.
And there we go.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's the strongest response, but it's after the fact. I think they all should have done it, stood together as the 7 nations that they did it, and went, fuck you, FIFA, we've made you look stupid on your tournament. It's very strange how this tournament, in this despot nation, has decided to bow down. Normally, FIFA run the show, bit like the FA. You want to play in the FA Cup, play by our rules. You want to play in the Premier League, play by our rules and Sky. In this tournament, it seemingly has been Qatar's gone, yeah, you can have alcohol, you can have this, everyone's going to be welcome.
You can have a Budweiser.
Yeah, you can do what you want. And then literally on the eve of the tournament, when everyone's here, they've gone, no, it's our tournament, it's our rules, you do what we want. And this is,
my theory on that, Ryan, because I've been thinking about this. Because when you look back at previous World Cups, even the most recent ones, we've come from Russia in 2018, which is
again,
wasn't the now. Russia perhaps. It looks great now, but didn't look. I don't know. Did it look as bad at the time? I mean, you could find journalists and writers telling you about the problems in Russia. I think it's probably a bit of a blind eye turn to Russia in 2018. And to some extent, even in Brazil in 2014, because there was controversy before that. And to some level, the spending that took place in South Africa in 2010. You can always argue that money could have been better spent in South Africa and Brazil, whereas maybe only Qatar really has the kind of disposable money to throw 200 million. I think I've read, is it
200 billion.
200 billion.
250 billion.
Wow. Which is by far the most expensive
That'd be
World
up by
Cup.
you half of Mbappe, I think, at the moment in the current transfer window.
I think it's more than 10 times than any other country's ever spent on a World Cup.
I mean, my theory, Ryan, is that FIFA is used to pushing countries around, a bit like the Olympic Committee. You know, when the Olympics descended on London, they ran. It was almost local laws get slightly suspended, and you have to do what the Olympic Committee, and the same with FIFA when they run a World Cup, you have to fall in with them. And only country, maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe obviously Qatar now, has the financial clout to push FIFA around. Maybe they've met their match when it comes to the wrestling financial Olympics.
It's a really weird one because, like Harry's saying, like you're used to FIFA kind of running it. They do often run it as a relatively silent partner. Like I know obviously it's the FIFA World Cup and everything, but they're not in Sepp Blatter's era. What you heard from Sepp Blatter at like FIFA events and when he was doing draws, you didn't hear from him at World Cups. He didn't make these stupid speeches. Like it's not, you can't. There's not a lot of things. There are a few clips and stuff, but there's not a lot of things you can take the piss out of what Sepp Blatter has said. Other than well, I know there's a lot, but one immediately jumps to mind is when he said to make women's football more appealing, they should just wear shorter shorts. But
not a bad idea.
This World Cup weirdly is like it is Gianni Infantino's World Cup. It's not FIFA, and it's almost like that. The beer thing was supposedly obviously was Qatar's decision that they didn't warn FIFA about, but it was FIFA making the statements. The One Love armband thing was supposedly nothing to do with Qatar and was a FIFA option. Whoever you believe there. But you're only really hearing from FIFA. You haven't heard from Qatar at all. At the opening ceremony, no one from the Qatari World Cup committee or from the government said anything. They didn't make a speech. They didn't open it, which every other host nation has always done. Like, it is not... There are reports that, a lot of people in Qatar, senior people in Qatar, regret even hosting it because of the scrutiny it's brought and then the cost it's brought. But you don't hear anything from anyone in Qatar at all. You only hear from Infantino, and it's a very weird. And obviously, he has moved his family to Qatar, lives in Qatar. Like it's a really weird relationship thing going on there.
Go on, Harry.
Another person that needs some scrutiny on a Millwall-based podcast is Mr. Tim Cahill, who doesn't need the money, who has run the Aspire Academy that put that shower of shit out there on the first game. Hello, Mr. Tim Cahill.
Qatar,
yes.
By Qatar, by some distance, the worst team we've seen in the tournament. I think that's a good point.
If you spend £250 billion on a tournament, you put a lot of these players in an academy for 12 years. You would have thought the first thing would have been, let's make ourselves solid at the back. Let's find a goalkeeper. That'd be the first thing.
I mean, Michael, you watch a lot of the Skeffel League. I mean, I don't think that Qatari team would have looked out of place playing at K Sports or Phoenix or, at that level. They were awful. And I think Ecuador went easy on them in that second half, actually. I think they eased up on the gas against Qatar.
Well, firstly, that means we'll never get Tim Cahill on this podcast in the future.
Good if you offer him a big.
I think the chances are always slender.
Yeah, I mean, we could offer him 10% on the board game, couldn't we? I suppose. But no.
20% this week on the board game.
Black Friday.
20 quid. 20
Black
quid
Friday
actually. Yeah,
deals,
20 quid. So.
Black Friday deals at the
Black
club.
Week is Black Week.
Don't the club shop. The club shop. Let's not mention the club shop.
Well, funny enough,
we'll finish with the club shop. We'll talk about them in a minute.
Funnily enough, I've got on my notes here, listeners, interrupting Michael. I've got the most weird clash of screenshots. I've got the cost of the World Cups, which Ryan's just said for Qatar is 220 billion, and then like a bar chart of other World Cups, all in the billions. Just above a Millwall statement on its retail operation, which is basically there isn't one at the moment. So I thought there's a really weird clash between 220 billion and then the Lions shop being shut. But Michael, sorry, I interrupted you on that. I've forgotten what the question was that I asked you.
The quality of the Qatar team.
Quality of the Qatari team, awful.
Well, I think they made Ecuador look like world beaters, didn't they? I think the one thing you can say if you're Ecuador, and this is where this goes back to how England played to a point. Yes, you can only beat what's in front of you, but the way they played, it shouldn't have been 2-0, should it? I mean, Ecuador should have absolutely put them to the sword and destroyed them, and got
They
that
eased
goal
up. They
difference up.
eased it up, and politically, I think they might have decided not to thump the home nation.
But possibly, you say that, Nick, and I do agree. But if you've got a team like Qatar, it's like when you have teams, with no due respect to any of our listeners out in the Faroe Islands or San Marino,
Or the Channel Islands.
But when you play like teams against the Gibraltars and people like that, they could be the teams that get you through on goal difference. So you've absolutely got to annihilate these teams, because who else is in their group?
Senegal and Netherlands.
Yeah, 2-0 to the Netherlands. Senegal, I thought, didn't look brilliant, but they looked a world apart.
Yeah,
from,
but that's
side.
that's the thing, that group, to a degree, they sort of could all half sort of beat each other, I think, on each other's day, except for Qatar, and that group could go to goal difference. And what's happened? You've only scored 2 against the worst team in the tournament. Political or not, that could, a 2-0 against them could knock you out the World Cup.
Wales are in this tournament as well. Let's not go.
Well, I was just going to mention Wales. USA.
What about
USA won, Wales won. I mean, poor first half from the Welsh. They did make a bit of a Welsh comeback in the second half, and their talisman Bale scored a decent penalty. Neither side. I thought the USA might impress us, but they didn't. Neither side really looked like. It might be the proverbial slow start. So I better not say too much.
Look,
I'm sitting pretty with a 6-2 thumping of Iran on in front
look,
of me.
let's be honest, right? It would be remiss of us not to mention the fact that Wales have got basically the only real proper old-fashioned centre forward at the tournament, really. Big old Kiefer Moore, and they just went, "Fuck it, let's lump it long to the big man," which I respect fully as an advocate of Harris Ball and all that. I
struggling in League Two, H.
I need to. I mean, they've scored 6 goals from open play. I was looking at it. I think they're now trying 16-year-olds up front. It must be really fucking grim down there. But
desperate.
At the end of the day, I think moving swiftly on from that. I mean, the American and Welsh teams probably fancied before they played each other, they needed a point and they could build their tournament from there against, realistically, we shouldn't lose to either one of them. The Wales game is tricky because it's a derby. They'll be fired up. We won't.
They will.
But we what's the right word of dealing with it? I trust in Gareth to get us out of this group as top, and for it all to go wrong in the round of 16.
Harry, I trust in the draw that will finish top, not the draw of the group, not Gareth Southgate, because there is no way we are not going to win this group. There's no way. If there's a major problem.
I just
you agree with that? Agree with that, Ryan? That we should win the group?
I think Michael saying that then, that might be the first person during this whole build-up to the World Cup that I've heard say that out loud. I cannot believe. I honestly am getting so annoyed with a lot of the build-up, a lot of the preview, listening to a lot of people. I cannot believe how negative everyone is being going into this World Cup. I don't give a shit if you don't really like Gareth Southgate. The group we've got is shite. It is so easy. It is when I know we've fucked up before.
That's where the negativity comes.
Harry, people seem to be completely forgetting that we lost the Euros final on penalties. We didn't get battered. Italy had 1 shot on target and scored it, and we lost on penalties. We did well at the World Cup before that, and the squad is massively different and better than the last 2 tournaments. 100% it is better, Harry. Wales are rubbish. Aaron Ramsey cannot run anymore, and Gareth Bale is older. People seem to only remember Euro 2016, which Wales were absolutely fantastic. They still lost to England and only scored because Joe Hart fucked up massively. They also, at the next Euros, which was last year, were awful, finished third. I think they finished third in their group, maybe finished second, in a bad group, including Turkey, who were dreadful, Switzerland, who were hard, and Italy, who beat them. Then they got absolutely whacked by Denmark, who were shit yesterday as well. The US are also rubbish. They have a few young players, and people are going, well, they've got the youngest squad at the tournament, I think. People are going, that could be interesting. They're starting Josh Sargent up front, people. They have starting Josh Sargent and Tim Ream and Zimmerman at centre-backs. they are shit. Iran was probably the hardest game we will have. The idea that Wales will be up for it, and I know we have the Scotland game, but weirdly England-Scotland is a lot harder, and England have a probably worse record in that game than they do against Wales. Wales, I think, will be lucky to come out. I think I would not be surprised if England won both of the next games 3-0. I think the Wales game, England will probably change because we will beat the US. But sorry to finish my.
Go on.
It's a very Harry-esque rant. I'm very proud. It's taken years to develop this.
I've heard one person who was an American who predicted we would get to the final. Everyone else predicted we would come out of the groups or the round of 16. Look at the group we would play if we top the group. The Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, or Qatar. One of those 4 teams will finish second, and that's who we'll play. Do you think we would beat that Senegal team that played the Netherlands? Yes.
Should do easily. Yeah.
Would we beat the Netherlands? Yes, because they're not very good. Like, I honestly think, I haven't really said this too much publicly because it could obviously blow up in your face. I honestly think England will get to the final and probably lose it.
It's only us 4 talking here, Ryan. No one else will be listening to this.
So
Mate. Don't worry about
we'll get to the final, and that's not through a grandiose England are so good, because our side of the draw is quite easy.
Oh, it's still this side of the draw again.
But but it's true. Because
do not face France, Ryan. If at some point, if we get into the
potentially France the semi. Okay, so then the semis.
Is it quarterfinal or semis?
I think it's just France in this side of the draw, though, because the other side of the draw has Germany, Spain, Portugal. I think Portugal, Brazil, and Argentina in it.
Argentina apart, we've yet to see the other big guns. Brazil being
exactly. Not a lot of the big teams have played, but from what I've seen so far, other than France last night, England's performance, and then it's the thing of, it was only Iran, but you still have to beat these teams, and we absolutely
you do. I mean, Michael, I thought the Iranian team looked like your typical kind of championship, difficult to beat away side. A bit like maybe how Millwall might set up in a sense.
They were the ones who everyone was tipping to be the hardest game.
Well, because I think they came into the tournament with a decent record of defensively minded football. So but we did. What the point that strikes me, I don't know if you agree, Michael, but I thought England dismantled them. I mean, once the goals started to flow, we looked really, really good going forwards.
Yeah.
Players of real talent, Bellingham and Saka. I mean, if he stays fit, Kane and even Sterling popped up with one, didn't he? So, that's got to be some comfort, because that they will presume they can play at that level, which they should be able to. That's going to get goals against most teams. It's just how many we concede that bothers me, because we look a bit fragile in defence, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, is like what Ryan was saying there, and I do agree with a lot of that rant, and I hope that the point he was making when he said about what I said, he agreed with me. But one thing I will say is, I just think that attacking-wise, we do look really good. I know it is against Iran, and you could only, like you say, you only can play what's in front of you. But then, I said a moment ago, you compare it with Ecuador, they only beat them 2-0. Yes, the Iran team wasn't particularly good, but we absolutely annihilated them and showed why they're not really at our level. And like Ryan was saying, why we should, all going well, get quite far in the tournament. I think Bellingham's goal, as soon as that hit the back of the net, I think that put an extra 20 million on what he's going to be worth. I think he absolutely bossed the game for a player of his age to be, having that many touches, in the opposition half. I think he did really, really well. Saka has been absolute class for Arsenal for a number of seasons now, and his movement on and off the ball is really, really good. Even Sterling, who was a bit hot and cold up, he did okay as well. And one thing I will say, and again, this is kind of joining in with what Ryan said as well, I do think with this England team, if we don't do anything in this tournament, I think we'll be real contenders in the next few. We need to tighten up at the back, 100% agree. Maybe sort out the goalkeeping issue, because I think going into the tournament, yes, Pickford is a fantastic goalkeeper for England, but he's too bob at Everton. I hope he's not listening to this.
So hard, so good.
But I'm quite a fan of Pickford when he plays for England, and when I watch him for Everton, I do think it seems a different goalkeeper. And Ryan, you've got to be honest. I know you're shaking your head, but you've got to be honest. It doesn't. It might be because he has more shots when he's at Everton than he does at England, but
he statistically he's one of the best goalkeepers in the league this year. Like saves he's making, he's performing really well.
It doesn't help when you've got Frank Lampard coaching the defence in front of you. That normally.
I think all England goalkeepers get slated, like regardless. I don't think.
I agree with that.
But I don't know. Maybe Seaman. But I don't know. There's obviously not. There's very rarely an England keeper like even Joe Hart. I guess the last keeper at like the top Premier League teams. But I think we are probably in a dearth. Aaron Ramsdale probably will eventually take over. But just on the improving World Cup thing, when we played Tunisia, I've just got the team up here. When we played Tunisia at the last World Cup in our opening game, we had obviously Dele Alli was brilliant that year, but actually was injured at the World Cup and should not have played a minute. The wingers were Jesse Lingard and Ashley Young.
Yeah.
Young was the left wing back. Like, think of the attack now and think of who we've got coming off the bench.
Was it really that? Was it really that? That's really bad.
Yes, it was Ashley Young at left wing back.
Tough times.
Ashley Young's not that much younger than Nick, is he?
I think Nick was in the stands when he made his debut.
Wasn't Ashley Young one of the passengers on the Titanic?
I think he kicked the iceberg. He whipped an iceberg in and took it out. But no, so I think what's weird is up until this World Cup, the narrative around England from that World Cup into the Euros and then to this World Cup was when they built St George's Park and brought everyone to training at that point in the middle of the country. They had the clock on the wall counting down to the start of the 2022 World Cup because that was the one they were aiming to win.
Yeah.
The plan was semi-final of the last World Cup, potentially final or winners of the Euros, and then to potentially win this World Cup. And that has always been the narrative. And it was not even just the narrative, but the FA's explicit ambition. And because we didn't have a very good Nations League, which neither did France, neither did Germany, neither did Italy, didn't qualify for Spain didn't have a great one. Because we didn't do very well in those games, and obviously you don't see a lot of the international teams, so it's a bit of an odd one. But everyone seems to have just gone, oh, well, this is over. We're going to get knocked out by Wales at the group stage. And I can't, 8 years of narrative? How long has Gareth Southgate been in the job? 6 years? But it's just gone. I can't understand it. I can't understand it myself. And I'm not saying England are going to win the World Cup. I'm
saying we'll be runners up, so that's close.
No, it's not. It's not. It's fucking the best of the failures. This is it. If it doesn't win this World Cup, right, Ryan, by your own aims. If you set out an aim as a business, if you treat football as a business, the aim is to improve, right? So the semi-final, we score early. Modric and fucking Croatia don't get tired and beat us, right? Fair enough, that happens. We lose, right? Whatever. Euro finals, basically a home tournament because of COVID. We go 1-0 up early in the game. Declan Rice is basically the only man in midfield doing any running defensively. Takes him off. We lose the game on penalties. Brings on two people who've never taken a professional penalty in his life. Something he said he would never do, but he did, and he did it, right? And then he has a shit Nations League. And the problem is everyone, basically, when we won the semi-final, rightly or wrongly, everyone just assumed we'd win the final because we got to a final. It's history. We've got to win. And I think it's interesting in the public psyche that I think I agree with you to a little bit that it's because we've had a bad Nation League. I also think these people don't want to get hurt again. I just... to lose,
and the negativity around the tournament in general.
To lose in a semi.
I feel for that bloke that had the flare stuck up his arse. He don't want to be doing that again, does he?
There'll be no flares in fucking Qatar. I
can't keep doing that. Can't keep doing that.
Nick, he reliably told the Sun that was the best day of his life, so he definitely would do that again.
Like the thing
no, I agree.
I know this is going to sound really weird. Like, I don't even know if I want to win this World Cup. Like, it's not.
Oh, come on.
No, listen. It's not right.
Yeah,
it's not right. I want to be in a beer garden in the summer, chucking beer everywhere. I don't want mulled wine going over you. I don't need this.
You're not going down the den Friday night, throw your lager around when we get the first goal against America?
Though, is that people, I think they're feeling a bit more distant from this World Cup, so it's they're almost not bothered about hanging their hopes on it. Like, I think it is.
It's funny. I went round to our corner shop yesterday to get a pint of milk, and there was a house with a St George's cross hanging out the window, and that's the first one that I've seen. I'm not just normally in a World Cup, any major tournament, you get like a real buzz. People have got flags on their cars, all sorts of stuff like that. And I thought, wow, look at that. That's the first one I've seen, at all.
Where are the Panini stickers?
Whether that will change. Well, maybe it'll change if we get some progress. Who knows? And all joking aside, the opening game was a 1:00 kickoff. It don't lend itself well to throwing your lager around in a sports bar, does it?
You'll find out
maybe,
7:00.
Maybe the next one.
7:00 Friday. You'll find out
Friday
how much
night.
people actually give a shit, won't you? It'll be rammed everywhere, and
there's a whole. I was looking on Millwall online earlier on. There's a whole thread on there about how people don't care about it, and it's almost like a badge of honour that you don't watch it and don't. I think a lot of it has to do with armbands and knee taking positions, shall we say. But it's just interesting how people are making a big kind of point of honour, pride. They're not watching, and they won't watch this England team. I don't know which England team they will watch.
probably the Lionesses, presumably, because they'll win.
Yeah, probably all over the Lionesses.
That's probably why. And quite good, believe it or not.
Achtung, Millwall.
Michael, you're a referee in the group. You are a referee, and it's been brought up a few times. I just wanted to mention it because I kind of approve of the amount of stoppage time that's being added to a lot of games. I mean, it's not unusual now to be seeing 8 or 9 minutes tacked onto the game. And as I understand, it's a FIFA directive to pick up on the thing that my bane of my life, and I might have mentioned it once or twice, listeners, is the over celebrating goals and game management, all this kind of stuff. And if it's going to be added on at the end on that level, I think I find myself in agreement with FIFA. This is a bit of a revelatory moment in my life. I'm agreeing with FIFA, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, when you do referee games and you do your training and everything like that, you are basically told, it's obviously the over exuberant celebration, if you will,
and the length of time as well. The length of time.
So basically, you when I referee games, don't get me wrong. If someone scores a goal, I'll let them do like a little high five, maybe like a little huddle, back to the circle. If it's nice and quick, I won't add it on. But if they high five, circle, decide to shake hands with every single player on the pitch, go up to the goalie, then the bench, I'll be like, right now, I'm going to add a bit of time on because this is getting a bit silly now. And I think, do you know what I think it's got a lot to do with as well, Nick? Was it a couple of years ago in the Champions League they worked out that the pitch and the game was only live for something like 57 minutes, and UEFA said that is just absolutely unacceptable. And it is, you like the money that's in the game. I know obviously you go and it's not the spectators' fault or the league's fault if said player keeps booting the ball out or going down injured all the time. But people are investing in a product. They're investing in a 90-minute game. They're investing in match action. And as we proved them, as we just said a minute ago, in the Champions League a little while ago, there was 33 minutes. That's over a third of the game. The ball's not even in play and being used. So
it's being managed, as I put it.
And the thing is as well, if this, yes, there's game management. Yes, there's doing the quick clap when you're being substituted. And I know some people, like this was, for example, if Qatar went 1-0 up against Ecuador, they would have done it. But you've got to eliminate it. I mean, maybe 14 and 17 minutes might be a bit too long to play sometimes. And there's already been records broken for latest goals scored in games, etc. But I've got no problem with 8-9 minutes being added on at the end, because I'll tell you what, once big name teams get knocked out in the 7th minute added on of 97 or 98, yeah, Nick, they'll stop doing it. They'll stop.
Harry, are you a shirt twirler? Are you a shirt twirler when you score your goal?
Considering the fact I've played for 3 seasons at South Bank and I haven't scored a goal yet, we don't know. Right, Ryan will attest. Ryan will attest to that. Right.
We came so close to finding out, listener. You will not believe. We came close. That one in the cup.
Game that me and Ryan played in earlier in the season, literally unbelievable. Anyway, no, I just from a purely game management point of view, is that it is a skill to game manage. Like, it is a skill. Do not get me wrong. It is a skill to con the referee. And I don't understand why people hate it so much. It's part of football. If you want to add the time on, that's up to the referees, the FIFA directive. I am not being funny. Ryan played Saturday in a cup fucking round of 16 game, got through to a quarter final. And if I was on his team, I would have literally, if we were winning with 1 minute to go, I'd have literally spun that ball as fucking far away from the pitch as possible and got back into shape. It's part of the game. When you're winning, that is your prerogative to waste time. It's your prerogative to manage.
Yeah, but Harry, there's a difference between game management and time wasting. Game management is going down if there's a slight touch on you or a slight push. Time wasting is when there's that slight push and you go down holding your head. getting medical treatment. There's a big difference between the two, mate. I do agree what you're saying in game management, but there is a difference.
And it's like active and passive as well, I guess, like when the ball's in and out of play.
I get what you're saying with that, but I don't want to lose, because I don't think you can have one without the other, and I don't want to lose the Dick Dastardly type characters from the game. People moan there's no characters in sport anymore. You're not allowed to be one. And I kind of like, I mean, I still don't have a problem with fucking players celebrating taking their shirts off. I mean, the antithesis of this is the Adebayor finish. I mean, I just think he's lucky that he done it against Arsenal, because nothing was going to happen, was it? A lot of it, you do that down the Den, you run the length of the pitch, there might be a reaction that you possibly haven't counted on. But it's interesting. I think the fact that we played 120 minutes the other day with England, and just
near enough.
But at 6-2,
a big injury. I mean,
there was.
But I have a theory about this one. I have a theory about why they've done it. Partly, obviously, it is the amount of time that the ball isn't in play and they want it in its play as much. I'm surprised how negative, like it's been quite a split reaction, how negative the reaction has been to it for a lot of people. A lot of people were literally just going, just end the game already. And it's like, well, why are you fucking watching? Like, if you want the game to end. Like, the Argentina-Saudi Arabia game was brilliant. Because of the injury and stoppage time, you literally had no idea when it was going to end. And it was so exciting. I think part of it, they get the positive of we play more football and people will like that. The flip side is, if people really don't like it, it's more fuel to the argument of shortening the game. And I think if people really don't like it, they say, okay, we will get rid of stoppage time. We will shorten the game to 60 minutes or 70 minutes and do a stop clock.
Like a basketball style.
I think this is
style.
the first step, which is what FIFA want to do, or what a lot of top people want to do to make the game more exciting.
Didn't Arsene Wenger propose that, Ryan?
Arsene Wenger proposed it. I know Real Madrid's president has proposed it probably every other day to his wife, and then every other week in the pub.
Don't forget these.
I don't know. I think
don't forget these are the same people that want a World Cup to be shortened from every 4 years to, is it every year or every 2 years?
Every two.
They want that. They also, interesting FIFA money spinning ideas. They have ended their relationship after 20 years with EA Sports. So they are now going to make their own video game, because they want a large slice of the Ultimate Team, which we have touched on before. They want the budget from that. They want the money. The game itself is £80, probably on the current PlayStation or Xbox platform, and then you can spend £80 on points per pack. So they're making.
Now it's become a fruit
machine. Remember, FIFA, all their entire, which someone brought up, Filippo Clare brought it up on the Guardian podcast this morning that's come out. FIFA have always been anti-gambling. They've always not had the gambling policy as no gambling. We've gone to this World Cup, and on the screen at one of the stadiums in an Arab country where it is illegal to gamble, they have now announced they have a betting partner from Budapest. So, another one for the World Cup moral bankruptcy chart.
I noticed also that, Michael, they're advertising a FIFA, like a music streaming platform as well. I thought they're really going out into diversifying, I suppose, is the business approach when you're starting to branch out. I suppose they did that with the games in a sense, and then to move into music streaming. Certainly, it's
the music streaming.
Is imaginative.
The music streaming. Sorry to jump in. From what I understand, is as part of the new as part of the game, they've added a level of content where it's basically like throwback to old FIFA games and World Cup music from those games. So I don't know if the two are interlinked. Like it's like a bit of a crossover, but there we go.
You're speaking a different language to the one that I speak.
The one thing I will say from FIFA, and we were talking about a business earlier on, and whether you like FIFA or not, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of them. I think they could do a lot better in certain areas. But if they've got a product which people are buying into, Harry, and making money from, i.e. EA Sports and music companies and other companies here, there, and everywhere, and you want you want money that people are making from your name and your products, business point of view, it makes sense. So I'm not necessarily saying They should do it because, again, I used to play the FIFA games growing up. I thought they were good fun. I'm trying to work out what FIFA, like Nick was just saying there, what interest they'll have in music. But if it's a brand people buy into, business head on, why would you give it to other people to make a profit on if you can make a profit on yourself?
It's a misunderstanding of where the money's coming from, though, which is a classic thing.
Yeah, true.
People aren't playing it because it's called FIFA. People are playing it because it's been in development for 30 years.
Yeah,
and it's a good game. So like buying it and like thinking they can just develop one is it, going really randomly off topic. I really like Football Manager. Like I never play FIFA. I don't play FIFA at all. I play Football Manager all the time. And this year, just a real sidetrack. This year, the game hasn't really been updated too much, and people are kind of going, "Well, what is the point?" The problem is that there's no competitor to Football Manager, and the intense development that it took to get to this stage, there probably can't be. And so that's the thing with the FIFA thing. I think it's another revenue stream for them that I think they're misunderstanding what fans are liking about football. But I can see
I feel
video game chat is putting
I feel like this is
it's a bit like,
I feel like this has just become the Moneyball conversation, which basically I've seen used as a meme for Ronaldo. So it's like what you see is Ronaldo scoring 28 goals a season. What I see is a lack of understanding of where goals come from. Yeah, and that's basically what Man United did when they signed Ronaldo. It's the same thing with FIFA and the game. It's like, yes, people are here, but they're not here because of the reasons that you think they're here. They're here for completely different reasons.
Yeah, one more thing I will say. Sorry on that, Nick. Like we were saying about like with the added time and everything like that. And this is one thing I'm always been quite a person open to just change in general. So you were saying there, Ryan, about how they might want to introduce the stop clock thing, and some people don't like it. And Harry, you were saying these are the same people who wanted to do this. Football's an evolving game. If you watch it on TV, like the big match stuff, every time there's a throw in back to the goalkeeper, he picks it up. You can't do that anymore. Can't do the back pass anymore. The offside rule changes every 5 minutes. Ways free kicks have been taken over the years have changed. It's like advantage rules and everything like that. So it's something that some people won't find popular. With FIFA changing things and having all these different ideas. But as I always say, with evolution and things getting better and technology getting better, if you don't go along with the ride, you're just going to get left behind.
I personally think there's one rule that they haven't mentioned bringing in, which I think would make football a million times better. And I'm saying this as someone that basically runs as if they're dragging a cart all up depth for deal.
3 balls.
No, you should just
speed limits or something.
But that's quicker than you were in that charity game.
I reckon so.
Harry.
Proposing a 5 mile an hour speed limit.
I reckon there should be no offsides. I generally don't think there should be offsides.
No
offsides.
No way.
Well, then you get goal hanging, don't you? Offside brings in
the argument about growing the game is the game's not exciting enough. That was a big thing. There's not enough goals for different markets who not naturally watch football. And I generally think how methodical and easy it is for teams to pass through, and the loss of having 2 strikers up front is because the game is all now played. Everyone's terrified about conceding and getting spun in behind and playing lovely interchanging passes. Let's bring back the big fuck off 40-stone centre forward that can just bang it. Gary Goals. I miss a Gary Goals. Kiefer Moore the other night. How great is it to have a big fuck off target man battering centre halves about? We need to bring that back.
Saw a film a few years ago, and there was a very eccentric bloke. I think he was in the former Yugoslavia. He might have been Serbian, might have been Croatian. I can't remember what he was, but they made a documentary film out of this bloke, and his hobby, his whole life, is devoted to trying to change the rules of football to improve it. No one takes any notice of his ideas, but he's and that was the point of the movie, that no one, it's like the ignored genius kind of idea. But one of his ideas was, I think he came up with doing away or restricting offside. But I mean, that's been spoken of many times. But he also reshaped the football pitch. He got his local kids to play on, was it an octagonal pitch or something? I can't remember how he did it. Circular pitches. He wanted football played. You name a bizarre idea, and he came up with it. And he would send them off to FIFA. Because I think they basically threw it straight in the bin or deleted it, the email.
What his problem was there, Nick? he didn't have a load of oil money that he could have facilitated it with. That was his first mistake.
It was an interesting picture because it was as much a character study of an eccentric as it was, his ideas in themselves. Just to close us out, I want to touch on a couple of Millwall bits and pieces. The Den is open on Friday night for the USA game. I wonder how many people go along to the Harry's Bar to watch the football. They're selling tickets. I mean,
They're selling tickets.
They're selling
Oh,
tickets.
right, okay.
Yeah, it's a £5 to get in, but you get a drink. What drink? I don't know.
Budweiser.
Bud
Zero.
What is it? Is it Angelo Peretti or whatever it is?
We can only wish it was Angelo Peretti.
But if you do fancy it out there, listeners, it's a £5 to get, and you get a free drink. And I'm going to guess it's in Harry's Bar. Would it be in the exact? I don't know.
I think it's in the
Didn't
exact.
it get done up recently?
I think it's been livened up a little bit, hasn't it? Yeah. I mean, I'm intrigued to know what kind of turnout there is for it.
One thing I will say quickly, Nick, on that, I went to a couple of the Euro games when I was in SE16. It was a really good little atmosphere, actually. Real good laugh. So I would actually say, I don't know what it's going to be like in exec or how well you got to behave. Don't get me wrong. I know that all Millwall fans behave impeccably well.
Always.
But always. But they were a good crack. They were good fun. It was
presumably the bar will open. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff Friday with England USA. Presumably it'll be open for, again, I guess, I don't know, 6 o'clock, so you can get in for a couple before the game and then maybe stick around for a couple afterwards. I don't know.
For me, I'd still fully commit to the outside atmosphere of people watching a big projector with some heating and shit going on. That's how...
in that SE16 area.
And Japan have scored, but it's offside. Let's all discuss how bad Germany's kit is. That's not a German kit, is it? That's a Juventus kit that they've nicked off.
Germany and Japan is underway. Just to explain for listeners listening to this as a podcast,
that is an awful kit. For anyone that hasn't seen Germany's kit, it's a white kit with a black stripe down the middle. Where they are, how many times they won the World Cup? 4 times have they won the World Cup?
4 times.
They're 4 gold stars and the badge is in the middle. It's just very disappointing as World Cup shirts go. You like it? It just looks like...
I did say I like it.
All right, just for me, that looks like that's been left on the Juventus cutting room floor as a foul Juventus shirt by Adidas. Yeah, by Ronaldo as he just walks off into the sunset for another payout. So when's he coming to the Den? When's Kavanagh making the move for him? When are we going for him? Because that's just what we want. Isn't it? We want to replace Benica Fumble who doesn't press with another striker who doesn't press.
Yeah. All I will say on Ronaldo is that it's good to know that he's learned what mutual consent means.
Oh, lawyers for that one. Lawyers.
This is a kind of
on his contract by mutual consent.
All right. Yeah.
This is a kind of satirical comment that people come to our show for, Ryan.
I don't know what.
I don't think. Let's put it this way: is there a football team near Vegas that he can go to play for, possibly?
It's the Brondby friendly. I'm moving on.
Move on, Nick.
From any talk of Cristiano Ronaldo's life. Let's move on. It's the Brondby friendly next week. Actually, it's come around quite quickly, isn't it? And I did read on Southwark News that we're talking about a behind closed doors friendly. I imagine it might be against the Premier League side.
Probably Palace, wouldn't it?
Possibly Palace. I'd imagine that that'd be behind closed doors. Listeners, so football's looming. We've also got the Sunderland game the week after, so it's actually not that far away now, is it? No. For the Millwall.
It's really weird. I feel like not enough has been made of. Obviously, nationally, it's not probably going to cause much interest. But I don't know, even in Millwall, I'm sure a lot of fans will really not. The Luton game is on the day of the World Cup final. I mentioned this
on the last time I was on.
How is that not? Is that not a national scat? But
it's not even that. Ryan, it's not even that. It's the kickoff time of that fucking game. It's madness.
No, of course. I can't believe that there's not. I don't know. I obviously don't know what's happening at the club. I don't know if the club are pushing back really to try and get it. I don't know if it's too late to do it.
What difference does it? But honestly, what difference does it make if we play at fucking 10 a.m? What actual difference does it make for Sky to take their team? You're the ones who have probably changed the fucking kickoff as it is. Move it to 10 a.m. no one wants to miss the World Cup final if England are in the final.
It's a World Cup. It's a round of 6. No, sorry, I'm lying. That's the 3rd of December. That's the that's the Sunderland game.
We've got 2 games on. The Sunderland one, okay, look, it's the rescheduled one. Fine, but
it's the 10th we're talking about.
No other teams are playing on that day. Obviously, maybe League One and League Two, but
it's quarter final. No, that's the Wigan game, isn't it?
It's the World Cup final, Nick.
The World Cup, yeah, Nick. The Luton game is on the day of the World Cup final.
It's a World Cup final.
The 18th. Yeah. Sorry, I've been looking at the BBC World Cup site, listeners. Forgive me.
I can't believe. I would be very interested to see. I don't know.
3 o'clock kickoff. World Cup
already. If they've been released, I don't know who is planning on. I know, obviously, for a lot of people, it will depend if England are in the final. But for me, even if England aren't in the final, I probably wouldn't go to a Millwall game if it was on this. I would rather go watch the World Cup final at home or
it'd be on TV, Ron, wouldn't it? I mean, for those that follow Millwall away regularly, and there's a lot that do.
Exactly. I think it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous position to put the fans in.
I mean,
so it's a 12:30 start, is it, or is it a 12 o'clock start for that Luton game? I can't remember. If it's 12:30.
Probably 12:30, isn't it? They normally start at 12, but either one. Done by 2. When's the World Cup? At 4, is it?
I think it gives you an hour to get home.
Or you're going to watch it in a pub, maybe in Luton, but not many welcoming hostelries there.
So that'll go down.
Yeah, my conspiracy theory is that they don't really want to have to police this game, so we'll fucking throw it on and have less people turn up. That's my.
Well, they're going to get that age. I mean, that's going to be the practical reality.
That's what they want, because they don't want to have to police Millwall Luton, and that's less.
That's the exact reason. Which I know, obviously, other than the big occasion when it all kicked off, there's not a load of trouble at Millwall Luton games. Like, Sky seem to be obsessed.
There's a few over time. They brought a few down there, smash a pub up once.
Since they've been back in the Championship, though, all of those games have been on TV. They're really obsessed with.
It tends to be a fixture that gets.
But the problem is,
Millwall Leeds isn't.
But I think the reason they do that is that recently we tend to be the best 2 teams with shit budgets that do well. So they seem to. It's kind of a narrative they can show how well we're doing and look at the vibrancy of the championship.
Or they're just hoping for 1985.
It's one or the other. They get both, don't they? They can go look how progressive they are.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's genuinely scandalous from Sky. I think I'm. It's kind of annoying me, but I get it. You know, it gets lost in the smoke. It's not really. No one's really going to care outside of the Millwall bubble. But I think it's genuinely scandalous the fact that they've put it on the day of the World Cup final. I think it's.
I
think looking at sort of this season and the way how it's been scheduled, I think it is scandalous the way that even realistically, League 2 and League 1 clubs are being forced to play now as well.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of them playing? Didn't they play last night? There was League 1 fixtures or League 2 fixtures last night.
With Papa John's going on,
it's madness. We all should have stopped. We all should have worked out what we had to do and just gone from there, because the World Cup shouldn't be happening. Once it is happening, we had to deal with it, and that was it. But that's that. It's had a knock. I mean, the weather as well has been atrocious. So for someone obviously linked to the women's game, a lot of the women's games have been cancelled over the last month because literally
rainfall.
Even 3G. I've seen 3Gs flood, which is something that shouldn't happen. So it's I think it is having a knock-on effect because the pitches are in a worse state than what they normally would be, because everyone's had to play a lot more football early doors to get to the winter break, shall we say. But there we go. I think from a Millwall point of view, I just want to say congratulations. I know they lost on penalties, but the Lionesses played last weekend, or not last weekend, the weekend before last, against a Tier 3 Gillingham side and took them to penalties, and really good performance from them, from all accounts. I wasn't there, but I thought they'd done really well for the club, to be honest, to take them there. But I thought that was worth mentioning.
Final talking point. Well done, Lionesses. Well done. Final talking point, chaps. Crawley Town posted. It was Tony Craig's 700th appearance in all competitions, career appearances, 700. Recently, I checked on Wikipedia. He's done 702 games now since this was posted. Wow, that is an immense career. Looking, Michael, at the list of English appearances, the list of players. I mean, obviously, Peter Shilton tops the all comps list with 1,000, but I mean, the club of 700 plus is a very, very limited number of people that's ever got to this stage in their career. I mean, hats off to Tony. He was a great favourite down the Den, and a Millwall fan, of course, too.
Yeah, and do you know what? Whenever he just kept coming back, didn't he? He was one of these players who, even when he was sort of fanned out to a point of his ability wise, whenever he went up to the Championship, he was always that. It was a bit like, Martin Allen at Barnet. Whenever they're in trouble, he always comes in to help. He puts the cape on, and he was always like, "No, Tony Craig, you could always rely on him to do well." And I always remember in his very first spell with us before he went to Palace, I did look and I think, what a player we've got here, like as a left back. His career may have not. Yes, he's got 700 games, so I'm not criticising him and his plan. He may not have gone on the trajectory he would have wanted, because I think when he went on to Palace, he could have maybe gone on. There was a few things behind the scenes that meant he come back to Millwall. But yeah, top player, top pro, loves Millwall. Seems like a nice enough chap when you see him on telly. Never has a bad word to say about. Doesn't seem to have a bad word to say about anyone. Wears his auntie sleeve, and he's a real sort of captain material. So fair play to him. Yeah, every club he's been at seems to love him as well. So he can't be.
Yeah.
He must be doing something right.
I think football has, obviously during his 700 game career, I think football's changed a little bit. That when he was, when he started as a left back, I think he could get away. He's never been blessed with outstanding pace, so he used a lot of football intelligence and being physical. And I think that in those positions, sort of as defensive wide players, whether you play left back or left wing back, which changed a lot now.
Without sounding ridiculously stupid here, and I'll explain it. He played as a defender. There's so many left backs now who, like, Scott Malone, for example. Right, you're a defender, but we need you to push on. So you need to push on an overlap. Craig wasn't an overlapper; he just defended, and I think he did it well enough. So yeah, fair play to him.
Spent half at the second half of his career as a centre back, really. But
yeah, he's a bit of both. I think just to be honest, just physically, that longevity, the reason that players don't hit that number generally isn't out of choice, or a lot of players. It's not that they go, I don't want to drop down leagues, I don't want to play at this level. It's just being a physical defender, left back or centre back, at League One, League Two, Championship level for your entire career. At the age of 37, still be doing it. He's played most of Crawley's games this year. It's incredibly impressive. It's incredibly impressive, and and I don't know, is he going to stop this? Like, is this his last year?
Don't know. That's a good question. I was just wondering. Where
does Tony Craig because 300 more is too many. You're not going to get there. So you can't even go, I want to play 1,000 games. Like, is it now I want to get to 800 and see how I feel, or I want to get to 750 and see how I feel?
Probably 750. Another 100 is going to take him a bit longer.
The 800 plus group is a very rare. I mean, there are some. You've got Shilton at the top, as I've said.
Outside of keepers, is there anyone?
Not modern players. I mean, these are people from the 70s, 60s. Most recent player, bloke called Graham Alexander, 1990 to 2012, Scotland.
Didn't he manage Hearts at some point?
Possibly. 833. Then you're going back to 1960s and 70s football. I mean, the most recent name that catches my eye here, you've got Neil Redfern for England, 1982, 2004. Various clubs, obviously, 790 appearances. And David James, goalkeeper, 788. So it's a rare group. I think the thing that struck me with Tony is, obviously he's much beloved at Millwall, but wherever he's gone to, I think he was player of the season at Brentford in their third division, third tier days. But even following him at Bristol, you can't always keep half an eye on where our old boys have gone to, and now Crawley. Tony seems to embed himself in the club and become very well regarded and connect with the fans. And, as he did with us, he seems to be that kind of player, whether he'll want to go into management at some point, I don't know.
The fact that
and it's a good question about how much longer he wants to
The fact that he's played 700 games makes me feel like he definitely doesn't want to go into management, maybe. But I don't want to do that.
Maybe he wouldn't enjoy it.
That's it. I think some people enjoy playing and find it very difficult to manage. I mean, personally, doing what I do now, I couldn't think of anything worse than coaching or managing is fucking awful. It's bad enough doing scouting, let alone having the result hang on your decisions to somewhat. It's a whole different level of responsibility and pressure and all the other shit with it. But yeah, I just think you can't take anything away from him. I think he's a very rare thing in the modern day of he's an honest football player that gives a shit. And there is a lot of football players now that think that football owes them a life and a career, whereas Tony Craig sees it completely the opposite way round, that football has given him a life and a career and all the nice holidays, but he's made all the sacrifices he needs to make to play at 37.
Physically,
do you know what I mean? That's all right. I'm not gonna have that. It's as simple as I'm not gonna have that chocolate bar. You know, they make these decisions daily, and I don't think people realise how much self-discipline that takes realistically to.
It was interesting. I mean, what the Saudi game? The Saudi defender took a knee full in the face late in the game yesterday against Argentina. And I always think of the iconic image of Tony wearing that, Phantom of the Opera mask at Charlton and other clubs. I mean, that's the physical price. You know, it's one thing as a fan that you look on and say, "Wow, iconic image." He's taken someone. I mean, broke his cheekbone. That was that slag from was it Ainsworth? Wasn't it? Who did that to him?
That's slag Ainsworth.
Just looking at his appearances as well, the story of So when he rejoined Millwall for the third spell and obviously got promoted, the first season back he only played 18 games and the next year played 43. Just a stalwart. And realistically, that was 5 years ago. The next season he played 4 games in the Championship before then leaving for Bristol Rovers. No one, if you'd have said after we got promotion to the Championship, if Tony Craig had gone out and gone, right, I'm retiring, no one would have gone, really? You're retiring? He's had 5 years after that point.
And
he must love football, right? He must love playing football.
You'd think that was like the high point, going, I'll finish at Wembley on a high.
Go out on a high, I'm done. He just loves.
I'll tell you what. Heard it here first.
Loves playing.
Heard it here first. If this is his last season at Crawley or he's got one more after, don't be surprised if you don't see him down Welling. He's a local boy around sort of like Belvedere area type way. The way he loves football at the moment. I mean, he might get to the point where he thinks I'm 40 odd now. You know, I might not do it anymore. But you know, Gary Alexander still played for Greenwich Boroughs and all them towards the end. You still see Dave Martin knocking around in Scarecrow.
And Jay Simpson there.
Jay Simpson, I know he's a lot younger, but Sid Nelson's at Welling now. So don't be surprised if you see some.
Has Welling turned into the new Bromley?
I think they want to be, but
I think it was the original Bromley, Harry.
Yeah.
Welling's the original Bromley. Don't get me.
Can anyone answer me this question? What does Alan Dunn do at Bromley? Isn't he supposed to be the assistant manager? But I've seen.
Is he a coach? He drives by.
I've seen him on holiday twice during the season. He must be the only non-league manager that goes on holiday. It's unbelievable.
Like Edgar Davids. Remember when Edgar Davids was in charge of Barnet and refused to go to away games? To drive away.
Brilliant.
We've strayed far from Gianni into Infantino and we finished up in Welling.
Does Gianni feel? Does he feel Welling? Does he also feel Welling? Does he feel Bromley?
He lives in Qatar. I'd like to see him living in that flat above the shop next door to Welling. That would be where I'd put Gianni.
I want to see him.
I am Danson Park.
There we are, chaps. I'm going to call it quits on the recording. I want to say thank you to everyone for taking part. It's chaotic, listeners. I've got to edit this up. Thank you to you two for listening, and we'll probably come back another day with another World Cup special. Until then, from everyone on the show, Arrivederci Millwall and Arrivederci Gianni Infantino. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.